On the first day of university, Zara, Amaka, and Tenny couldn't have looked more different. If anyone had told them they would one day become best friends, they would have laughed. They came from three completely different worlds. Zara arrived on campus in an air-conditioned SUV driven by her family chauffeur. As she stepped out, several students turned to stare. She was beautiful, confident, and dressed in clothes that looked far too expensive for a public university campus. For Zara, university wasn't a necessity. It was an experience. Her father owned several successful businesses, and her mother spent most of the year traveling between countries for work. She had attended elite private schools her entire life and already knew she would relocate abroad after graduation. Money had never been a problem. Loneliness was. Most nights, Zara ate dinner alone in her family's massive house. Her parents loved her, but they were always busy. Birthdays were celebrated with expensive gifts instead of quality time. Whenever she felt sad, people assumed money could solve it. But some problems couldn't be fixed with money. Meanwhile, hundreds of kilometers away from Lagos, Amaka's mother stood behind a roadside food stall before sunrise. Steam rose from large pots of rice and beans while tired workers stopped by for breakfast. It wasn't glamorous work, but it helped put food on the table. Amaka's father had retired years earlier after working as a civil servant. The pension payments barely arrived on time. Life had never been easy. Growing up, Amaka learned very early that every naira mattered. She reused notebooks, she borrowed textbooks, and she studied harder than anyone she knew. When her university admission letter arrived, her mother cried, not because it was expensive, but because it felt like hope. Hope that one day their sacrifices would mean something. Hope that their daughter would have opportunities they never had. Amaka understood the responsibility resting on her shoulders. Failure was not an option. Then there was Tenny. If Zara's life looked perfect and Amaka's life looked difficult, Tenny's life looked confusing. Her family wasn't poor. In fact, they were comfortable. But her home never felt peaceful. For years, she had listened to her parents scream at each other through thin walls. Arguments became normal. Silence became uncomfortable. And eventually, divorce became inevitable. By the time she gained admission into university, Tenny was exhausted. She deliberately chose a school far from home. Not because it was the best option, but because she wanted to escape. She wanted distance from the pain, distance from the fighting, distance from everything. Unfortunately, pain has a way of following people wherever they go. Tenny carried hers with her. She stopped caring about rules, skipped lectures, ignored assignments, stayed out late, and acted as though nothing mattered. The truth was that she cared too much. She simply didn't know what to do with all the hurt she carried. The three girls met during their first semester. A lecturer randomly assigned them to the same group project. The moment they sat together, problems started. Amaka immediately disliked Zara. She assumed rich girls were lazy. Zara immediately noticed Amaka's judgmental attitude. And both girls quickly decided that Tenny was completely unreliable. Their first meeting lasted less than 30 minutes before turning into an argument. "You should have started the research already," Amaka complained. "It's only the first day," Zara replied. "And that's exactly why we're behind." Tenny rolled her eyes. "You both need to relax." Neither of them appreciated the comment. For several weeks, they only spoke when necessary. But something unexpected happened. The more time they spent together, the more they discovered the truth about one another. One evening, after a long day of lectures, Amaka found Zara sitting alone behind a faculty building. For once, Zara wasn't smiling. She looked sad. "What happened?" Amaka asked. Zara hesitated. Then she quietly replied, "It's my birthday today." Amaka blinked. "Your birthday?" Zara nodded. "My parents forgot." For a moment, Amaka didn't know what to say. How could parents forget their child's birthday? That evening changed something. For the first time, Amaka saw beyond the expensive clothes and luxury lifestyle. She saw a lonely girl. A few weeks later, Zara discovered that Amaka often skipped lunch. At first, she assumed Amaka wasn't hungry. Then she noticed it happening almost every day. Eventually, she confronted her. The truth came out. Amaka was trying to save money. Some months were harder than others. Sometimes there simply wasn't enough. For the first time, Zara understood that things she considered ordinary, food, transport, textbooks, were luxuries for someone else. And then there was Tenny, the girl who always laughed the loudest, the girl who pretended not to care. One night, while they sat together in the hostel corridor, Tenny received a phone call. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes. When she ended the call, she burst into tears. Neither Zara nor Amaka had ever seen her cry before. "My parents are fighting again," she whispered. At that moment, everything finally made sense. The anger, the rebellion, the recklessness. It wasn't confidence. It was pain. That night, the 3 girls talked until sunrise. They shared stories, shared fears, shared dreams, and somewhere between laughter and tears, strangers became friends. Soon they became inseparable. Students around campus rarely saw one without the other 2. They celebrated birthdays together, studied together, ate together, defended each other, and slowly they became the family each of them needed. None of them knew that their friendship would soon face its greatest test. By their second year, Zara, Amaka, and Tenny had become known across campus as a package deal. Where one appeared, the other 2 were usually close behind. Their friendship seemed unbreakable. At least, that's what everyone thought. The semester had been particularly stressful for Amaka. Her scholarship renewal was approaching, and maintaining it meant everything. Without it, there was no guarantee she could continue her education. Every test mattered. Every assignment mattered. Every opportunity mattered. The most important of all was an interview scheduled for a Friday morning. The scholarship board had informed shortlisted students that attendance was compulsory. Missing it could affect renewal decisions. Amaka had spent weeks preparing. She practiced interview questions, reviewed academic records, and prayed constantly. This scholarship wasn't just about her. It was about her parents. It was about every sacrifice they had made. It was about years of struggle. 3 days before the interview, Tenny burst into their hostel room, carrying exciting news. "There's a music and networking event off campus this Thursday," she announced. "We have to go." Amaka immediately shook her head. "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I have my scholarship interview Friday morning." Tenny rolled her eyes. "The event ends early. I still don't want to risk it. You're always studying. And you're never studying." Zara laughed nervously. Okay. Nobody should start fighting." But Tenny refused to let it go. For days, she continued persuading them. "Just a few hours. We deserve a break. Nothing will happen." Eventually, even Zara joined the persuasion. "Honestly, Amaka, it might help you relax before the interview." Amaka hesitated. Deep down, she wanted one evening away from stress. Just one. Finally, she agreed. "Fine." Tenny screamed excitedly. "You won't regret it." Those words would haunt all of them later. The event itself was fun. For a few hours, they forgot assignments, deadlines, and worries. They laughed, took pictures, ate food, danced, and enjoyed being young. When it was time to return to campus, everything seemed normal. Then their bus broke down. At first, nobody panicked. People assumed help would arrive quickly. But hours passed. The driver struggled to fix the problem. Night grew darker. Passengers became frustrated. Phones slowly died one after another. Amaka checked the time repeatedly. Her anxiety grew with every passing minute. "We need another way back," she said. "We'll be fine," Tenny replied. But Amaka could hear uncertainty in her voice. Around midnight, transportation became scarce. When they finally managed to find another vehicle, it was already far too late. By the time they reached campus, dawn was approaching. Amaka's interview had already started. She ran, literally ran, across campus, ignoring exhaustion, ignoring pain, ignoring tears. But when she arrived, she was too late. The interview panel had left. The opportunity was gone. Just like that, gone. For days, Amaka tried convincing herself everything would be okay. Maybe they would understand. Maybe there would be another chance. Maybe one missed interview wouldn't matter. Then the email arrived. She opened it while sitting alone in her hostel room. Her eyes scanned the message once, then twice, then 3 times. She couldn't breathe. Her scholarship had been withdrawn. The words blurred through tears. She stared at the screen as if reading it again might change reality. But reality remained the same. The scholarship was gone. Everything she had worked for was suddenly uncertain. That evening, her mother called. Amaka answered and immediately burst into tears. Amaka! Her mother's voice filled with concern. What happened? Amaka couldn't speak. She simply cried, and somehow her mother understood. The silence on the other end of the line was heartbreaking. When the call ended, Amaka felt completely broken. For the next week, she barely left her room. She ignored messages, skipped meals, and avoided her friends, especially Tenny. The guilt slowly began destroying Tenny. At first she tried convincing herself it wasn't entirely her fault. The bus breakdown wasn't planned. Nobody could have predicted it. But every time she saw Amaka's empty seat in class, the excuses sounded weaker. Eventually, she stopped defending herself. Because deep down, she knew the truth. If she hadn't pressured Amaka to attend, none of this would have happened. One evening, Zara sat beside Tenny outside the hostel. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, Tenny whispered, "She hates me." Zara sighed. "No. Then why won't she talk to me?" "Because she's hurting," Zara thought. But she didn't say it aloud. Instead, she asked quietly, "Do you regret it?" Tenny immediately nodded. Tears filled her eyes. "I never wanted this." Zara believed her. But she also understood Amaka's pain. And that was the problem. She was trapped between both friends. When she visited Amaka's room later that night, things became even worse. "How's Tenny?" Amaka asked coldly. "She's not okay." Amaka laughed bitterly. "Really? Amaka?" "No, Zara. Tell me." Her voice cracked. "Can her guilt bring back my scholarship?" Zara fell silent. "Can it pay my fees?" Silence. "Can it help my parents?" More silence. Tears streamed down Amaka's face. For the first time, Zara didn't know whose side to take. Because both girls were hurting. One was carrying guilt. The other was carrying consequences. And neither pain canceled the other. For weeks, the friendship remained broken. The three girls who once did everything together barely spoke. Campus felt different. Lonelier. Colder. Then one rainy evening, Zara received a phone call from Amaka. The moment she answered, she knew something was wrong. Amaka was crying. Hard. "I don't know what to do anymore." Zara rushed to her room immediately. What she found broke her heart. Unpaid bills sat on the table. Textbooks were stacked in a corner. And Amaka looked exhausted. For the first time, she admitted her biggest fear. "I might have to leave school." The words felt like a punch to Zara's chest. Because suddenly this wasn't about friendship anymore. It was about someone's future. Someone she loved like a sister. And that night, Zara made a decision. The friendship could stay broken. The arguments could continue. The blame could remain. But she refused to watch one of her friends lose her education. Even if it meant pulling the broken pieces of their friendship back together herself. She had no idea how. But somehow, she was going to find a way. And whether Amaka liked it or not, Tenny was going to have to be part of the solution.
Before you go, tell me in the comments, which of the three girls do you relate to the most? Zara, Amaka, or Tenny? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and don't miss part 2, where their friendship faces its biggest challenge yet. Please like and subscribe to find out. See you soon.